All right. Hello, guys. Welcome to the first podcast of Children of Time. This series of short podcasts will show how much people can argue about music. So I will define music conversations in different and completely different dimension. Let's say, music is something that is very to some extent very private. What we listen to is what we are connected to. So when we feel this connection to music, we don't want other people to break or tear this connection down. This is why we need to keep it as close to our hearts as we can. So today, with my first guest, John. Hi, John.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
We will have the first conversation talking about something which may seem very controversial. Yeah, I think controversial. So there are two there are two groups of people out there in the world. People who can hear the bass guitar lines in songs, and people who just can hear the bass lines in the songs and just can hear the vocals, maybe sometimes drums and guitars. And it's very, I think it's very common that we do not pay attention to the bass. We somehow realize that there is something in the background, something that maybe plays along with the drums, but we are not pretty sure what it is. So today I would like to win this battle with you, saying that the bass line, if there's the majority of people who cannot hear the bass line in the songs, can we just replace the bass line with empty stillness?
This is an interesting topic. So for those of you that are listening, Steve just came in and just told me what we were going to talk about today. And so I just found this out. So I don't have any homework. This is all off the top of my head. Everything I'm about to say is off the top of my head. And I have to fundamentally disagree with you. When you came in here, I knew you were going to have some kind of an argument topic, but I didn't think you were going to have something that was so...
You really got pissed off.
You really got me. You really got me. I didn't think you were going to come up with something like this. And I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. This is an engineering school here. And
let's remind guys that we are from Clarkson University.
Yep.
Yes.
I think there's two ways to look at it. There's from a artistic way to look at it and a technical way to look at it. So I had the second you said, why do you need to have it in the song? I can think of 100 different reasons why. And I think first, from like an artistic point of view, the bass adds structure. And I feel like the bass and the drums go together, and the bass and the drums, and the drums are a lot. And I understand what you're saying with the bass in certain rock music. I can think right now of a lot of popular songs where I couldn't hum the bass line, even though I personally, love bass lines. I couldn't hum the bass line. It's just not something it's not the memorable part of a song. So I guess I can give you that. But I think for the rest of the band, the drummer sets the tempo. The drummer really sets the pace. But the bassist works with that, and the bassist is the link between the harmony and the rhythm.
Well, here's an example. AC/DC, the perfect example. When I listen to AC/DC songs, I can hear the guitar. I mean, Angus guitar, that's for sure. I can hear the rhythm guitar. Of course, we all can hear the drums. But sometimes I try very hard to catch this bass line. And what is even surprising, the bass player of AC/DC in the early 80s won the prize of one of the most leading journals for music as the best bass player in the world. And I'm just thinking, was it because he was that good and everybody can listen and hear his bass, or was it just because he was the player of AC/DC? So maybe sometimes I have this impression that people just pretend that they can hear the bass just because they don't want to be seen as, I don't know, uneducated or not familiar with rock music genre, and they want to stay in the line, let's say. So what do you think that some people when they say that he can hear bass line, eventually they don't. They just pretend.
Well, I think if now you're getting into a question, so I kind of said something about like from an artistic point of view or from a musical point of view, and now I'm going to talk from a technical point of view. And like if you think of a song across its frequency range, you know, the human hearing range is generally accepted to be 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. If you know, you've got a crap stereo system, you're not going to hear the lower end of that system. And also, if you've got a crap producer, if the person who produced the song, or if it's just the technology isn't there to produce
Or a
song,
mixing guy.
right? Yeah, if the mixing guy can't do his job properly, or the technology is not right, you're going to have issues. So that's one of the things. Like, you know, people who listen to, I think it's like punk rock from the early 2000s. Just doesn't have any substance to me, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that
The bass.
the way it was produced. And I think if I got like a nice album and listened to like studio quality, maybe I would feel it.
You think it's too polished?
But no, it's just flat. So I feel like if you're not hearing the bass in these songs, it might not necessarily be because it's not that the bass is not important to the song, but maybe it's just that this is a post-production issue where it wasn't produced very well, and then you ripped the song off of, you know, whatever website, and now it's even lower quality, and now you're listening to it on your phone. Well, of course you're not going to hear the bass line. It can't physically come through. And I think a lot, like if you look at songs, I'm going to take a song like Billie Jean, for example. Which is a really there's not that many elements when you look at
That's
it at
true.
its face value,
Yeah.
but there's so many little things in there. And if you were to look at that song and watch it as over its like frequency range, like if you could,
But you also
know what I'm
are aware
saying?
of that many parts of Billie Jean were made in a computer. It's synthesizer.
Right. So if you look like if you had a graphic equalizer where you could watch the frequencies come
Yeah.
in, you know what I'm saying? You would see that song kind of layers in, and as the new things come in, they take up spots that aren't already being used. So if you have a lot of low end come in, right, you get that really heavy bass line comes in. So you've got the low end, you can see the low end come in, and then you get the synth come in, you get like the high mids come in, and then just as everything comes in, it just layers really well. And since everything layers really well together, it sounds really good. So if you have a song and you have, you know, a great rhythm going with, you know, the drummer's got a really nice tempo set, and the guitarist comes in and the guitarist is ripping, you're gonna have just a kick on the low end, and then you're going to have all this crap in the high end, and you're just making all this noise. You need to have some substance. That bass adds the power to the song.
There is a band very popular now, Royal Blood. They released so far 2 albums, and they are recognized now as one of the leading bands of the stoner rock. And there are only 2 members of this band. One of them is a drummer. The second one is a vocalist, the guitar player, and a bass player at the same time. And what he does is he has a very specific amplified guitar that has 2 channels for electric guitar and for a bass guitar. And when he's playing the guitar, the 2 channels separate from each other, and this very special amp distinguishes between the two channels.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly it means is that a guitar, electric guitar, I highlight this word, electric guitar, produces both electric guitar sound and the bass guitar sound. So the band reduced the number of members from 3, for example, like Motorhead, or Thin Lizzy, or ELP, to 2 members, meaning that for those guys, a bass guitar does not have this specific value. If you can reduce a band to two members with just electric guitar and drums, the question arises, do we really need the bass?
Now, is the guitarist is then acting as the bass player at the same time? Are you saying that this special amplifier you're taking what you're playing in guitar and you can have your guitar and your bass at the same time? It just kind of drops
produces its own bass line based upon the electric guitar amplitude and wherever the technical issues are.
Right. So I guess that makes sense so you kind of squashed my argument with you need to have the low end there, because then you have, I guess in this way, you have the low end there. But the low end isn't unique. Then you're just taking the bass isn't unique in that case, right? Because you're just taking your guitar and you're making the same thing just a couple octaves lower or something. So there's nothing unique about it. So in that way, yeah, sure, you can get rid of your bass player, but what are you doing? You're making your music isn't you're getting rid of an extra element that could make your song that much greater or that much more unique. So, I'm sure there's there's plenty of things I don't know. There's so many things I could do. I could do two things at the same time, and I gotta say it in a half-assed way. I don't know how else to word it.
And maybe something wrong with my ears, but when I listen to Royal Blood songs, I only hear the electric guitar.
Yeah. I think it is. It's weird. This is so difficult because I'm not prepared for this and I don't know.
Me neither. I just chose the topic.
It's
okay. So here's a band.
Okay.
Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
One of the best, one of the greatest, one of the most inventive, ingenious bands in the world history and music history. Can you agree with me on this?
Sure.
Yeah, Iron Maiden is the top. Alongside with Saxon or Judas Priest it's just the top of the top. So and the leader is a bass player, right? Steve Harris. So, and almost every song in their catalog is written or co-written by Steve Harris. And I can agree that there are some songs that I really can hear the bass line. For example, there's songs like No More Lies or even Fear of the Dark or Power Slave. Power Slave is this song where I really can hear the bass. Of course, I must add that the producer of those CDs was Steve Harris himself, which is he could have tuned up the bass line so that everybody could hear that it's him, not anybody else. But when it comes to the song, for example, like Fear of the Dark, which is solely written by Steve Harris, I can hear the bass line, but it doesn't change my perception of the song, because what I hear at most are two very well played guitars that make both rhythm and melody, plus of course Bruce Dickinson's vocal. And this bass, to me, could be there, and at the same time shouldn't be there at all, or couldn't be there at all.
I think it's very situational.
What do you mean?
It depends on the situation. It depends on the song. It depends on what you're listening to. But I don't think that you can just, I'm sure there's a couple songs where the bass line doesn't seem integral, and
Black Sabbath.
You're getting rid of something that can provide some kind of diversify the music. So I can think of a couple instances where you don't pay attention to the bass in the song, but then there might be just one part of that song where the bass really comes out, and it kind of mixes up the song. Because I can't imagine you would want to have a rock song where you would want to have just some hardcore guitar action going on, because I know guitarists work to have a signature sound. There's guitarists that really work to have a signature sound, and that's something that was huge for a lot of artists. Is you hear that guitarist, you can almost guess who it is just based off of their sound. But that's great that they have their signature sound, but how are you going to make an entire album or have many albums with that signature sound and just keep on that signature sound without breaking it up? You know, that's what breakdowns are for in songs. That's what solos for certain instruments are. You have to mix it up. So it's like you can't have the same thing going on. And obviously, you know, the guitarist can do a solo here, or he can break things up, and you know,
It's
things
interesting
can
you
change
mentioned
up.
about solos. I want to briefly touch upon Metallica.
Okay.
If I think when it comes to the conversation about bass line, it's very good example. Again, one of the greatest, Cliff Barton. He is said as the man who cannot be replaced or could not be replaced. To be honest with you, I am aware of that there is a bass solo in the song called Orion. And from the Master of Puppets album. Very good instrumental song lasting over 8 minutes. And I searched up in some music forums to learn where exactly, at which moment, this solo occurs. And I finally found, I can't remember now which minute exactly it is and which second, but I had to go back to this one solo 10 times to realize that it was exactly that this was the bass solo. A little bit changed, a little bit amplified. It was not the bass itself, it was a little bit changed by some machine. Okay. And then we have, after Master of Puppets, another huge eminent album, and Justice for All, with songs like Black in It. The title track or One. And this album is discredited usually because of one very popular thing, that after Cliff Barton's death and when Jason Newsted approached Metallica, the guys decided to tune him down as low as they can. So the production of Justice for All is very flat. And yes, and people are angry because they cannot hear the bass. However, this album is one of the most best-selling albums of Metallica. And really, nobody cares that there is no bass line, or there is bass line but tuned down to the deepest low. And I listened to this album at least 50 times in my life. I never had problems with listening to this song, with these incorrect production characteristics. And there is a guy on YouTube who sometimes produces on his own, remixes some songs, and he pulled out a song, and Justice for All, Black in It, remixed with the bass line. To be honest with you, I could not hear the difference. And people really don't care. So if people don't care, it means that they just don't realize that the bass line does not exist there. If we talk about very popular song, you mentioned Billie Jean, Living on a Prayer, Bon Jovi. Everybody knows the song, right?
Yeah.
It's close to the final countdown, and Every Rose Has Its Thorn, one of the anthems of 80s. And when you listen to this song, do you enjoy the song because of the bass line? And you just think to yourself, oh my god, this song rocks. I can hear the bass line. This is one of the best bass lines in my life. It's the bassist is so or you just notice the guitar and John Bon Jovi's vocals and these choruses. And after the fifth album, which was the Keep the Faith, the bassist of Bon Jovi left the band, and the band remained the 4 members band until 2017, when officially they claimed that a new member, the bassist, was introduced to Bon Jovi. He played with them on every album after Satch, the last name of the bassist, had left Bon Jovi. But they were introduced always, all the time, as 4-member, not 5-member band. And another evidence that nobody cared if there is a bassist or there is not bassist. And the last example, I think the most common one. Can you name the 4 members of Led Zeppelin? Maybe not just name and surname, last name, but at least last name or
Probably not.
first name.
You picked the wrong person to ask that.
Okay,
question.
if I tell you, okay, it was.
You're over here dropping knowledge bombs left and right. You're like, oh yeah. So if we just talk about this one band,
let's say you heard the last name Plant, Robert Plant, vocalist of Led Zeppelin. Okay, Jimmy Page. Doesn't sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bonzo, John Bonham.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I tell you John Paul Jones, does it sound familiar?
Well, that's a cool name.
That's a cool name, but doesn't sound familiar.
It sounds familiar, but it doesn't. I think it's one of those names that just sounds familiar.
And this is the bassist of Led
John
Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And this is the bassist. And usually people say, hey, when somebody's asked about Led Zeppelin's members, they say, okay, yeah, Bonham, yeah, Plant, yeah, Page, yeah, and the 4th one.
You know, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know where to go. You got me in a corner. I think I started off strong with my argument a little bit here, and then it slowly went downhill.
Squashed. I didn't want to squash your argument.
Yeah.
And I think that you were right with one thing, or at least maybe you're not aware that you said that. So I will remind you what you exactly said.
Yeah.
You said that this is personal thing.
Yeah.
Yes, that it's artistic and technical thing.
Yeah.
So when it comes to technical thing, I think that people do not care at all. When it comes to artistic thing, there's I guess a bunch of people who can say yes, I wouldn't listen to Black Sabbath without Butler on bass guitar, or I wouldn't listen to Dio without Jimmy Bain on bass guitar.
Rainbow in the dark, just a rainbow in the dark.
But I guess that majority of people, at least people with whom I talk about that, would say one thing: I do not care, or just I don't give shit to this fucking bass line. And it's sad because bass players created the history of rock and roll alongside with guitarists, vocalists, and drummers, right? But when it comes to remember the history, usually we remember the names of vocalists and guitarists.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, John,
Yes.
thank you for the first battle of Children of Time. The baseline conversation may become the historic topic, because I think this is one of the things that people may think sometimes, but they just don't want to talk about this. Maybe it's too controversial.
I think this is a good topic. I think this is one that we can let kind of simmer and sit on it, think about it a little bit, and this is definitely something that you could revisit.
Yes, and I think that maybe not next time when we meet, I think that we could even take the battle part 2.
Part 2?
Part 2.
I think so.
When we both will be more prepared for this.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get prepared. We'll have extended cut edition this week.
Now you have your homework, John.
Yeah.
So Clarkson University is Clarkson University, but Steve Liebisch is Steve Liebisch, and he's given to you a good solid homework, and you need to prepare for that. Otherwise, you'll be kicked off of this radio station.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you guys very, very much. It was John.
Yep, that's me.
And Steve.
That's him.
That's me, yeah. The first Battle for Children of Time. Keep in touch with us, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.